And I'd heard of Glen. I didn't really know him that much, even though he came and sang harmonies on my Rocking Horse to Mars album. He came on the recommendation of somebody else, and I really hadn't got to meet him. I met him when he came down, and that was about it. And I'd occasionally see him at gigs, but we didn't have a relationship. And then I did this vocal session with him for this friend of mine, and I watched him work, and I thought, I really like this guy. I just feel a real affinity with him. I love the way he works. I love watching him in the studio. He's an incredibly creative guy. He's a fantastic musician. And I just felt this affinity with him. And so after that session, I said to him, you know, if you ever felt like doing anything with me, I'd be really interested in doing a project with you. Let me know if you're interested. And he did. But it took about a year, maybe a year and a half, even 2 years of contemplating it and me trying to persuade him. And I think a lot of the time it was to do with me trying to coerce him. But I was very persuasive, and I was convinced we could do something interesting. And I said, look, Glen, I don't care how you want to do this. I don't care what you'd want to do with this stuff. But if I play you the songs and you like the songs and you consider making a record with me, I want to hand it over to you completely. I want to say, Glen, here's my songs, here's my voice. Please find a new setting for them. Because I feel like if I make another record, I'm just going to do the same thing again. I'm going to repeat myself. And I really want somebody to try and veer me off on some other tangent. But I just want to go somewhere else. And I think you're the guy who can take me there. And I'd love it if you would do that for me. And so he called me up one day and said, okay, I'd like to do it. Let's give it a shot. And that was how we started the project, really. These songs are really, really personal to me, and I would like to have people involved in it that I feel are people who just want to play the best music they can. I don't really want to just hire in session type people at all. I want them to have some personal kind of input into this and put their heart into some of this music, you know. And there's a key bunch of people I'd like to use, and I suggested a couple of people I suggested was particularly the drummer Laurie Ernst, who I'd worked with before, and I'd met him through Broderick Smith. He played with Gary Steele, who's a mate of mine, a keyboard player. I played with Gary in the past, but never really captured what I think is the essence of Gary. Gary's a fantastic keyboard player, fantastic piano player. He plays great Hammond organ, and his key instrument is the accordion. Jeff McCormack, who I've worked with since the end of the Dangland Brothers days, he was the bass player for The Wheel, and he's engineered just about everything I've ever recorded. He's a fantastic studio engineer. He does mastering. I really want to have Jeff involved. So Jeff was on board. Glen was going to play the guitars, and that would be the core band, really. That would be the core band for recording the bed tracks. We decided we wanted to bring in a few different people, and Brod Smith was one person I'd like to get involved. I've met Brod over the last few years, and he's a fantastic harmonica player. Michael King, yes. I've done a lot of stuff with Mick over the years, worked with Mick a long time, and never done any real recording with him, and this was an opportunity to have him involved. And although Glen, who's the producer, is a guitar player, Glen was keen to have other guitar players involved too, you know, so it was very compatible. Glen suggested a guy he'd met in Nashville. He'd been over in Nashville making a record with his wife. He met the guitarist who was on her sessions there, a guy called Will Kimbrough. And Will's a fantastic guy. He's an artist himself. He's made many albums over the years. He's a great songwriter and singer. But he's also a very in-demand session guy these days, with anything that's got strings on it, pretty much. We found out, or Glen found out, he was coming over to do a tour with Rodney Crowell, who he plays gigs with. Finds out he's only got one day off here, and it's the first time I think he's been to Australia, and I'd imagine the last thing he'd want to do on his only day off when he's come to a new country is actually spend it in a studio. Glen asked him about it, and yeah, he said yes. He was happy to come and do it. He'd like to do it. So Will spent the whole day there. I just played on virtually every track. Played the most amazing stuff, beautiful stuff. He played acoustic guitar, he played slide, electric slide, he played banjo. He was a really very gracious man to have working with us. He is a fantastic musician, and it was an absolute pleasure to work with him and meet him, and it'd be great to do it again sometime. Kevin Bennett, who I've been writing songs with now for nearly 20 years. And as a matter of fact, quite a few of these songs on this album are written with me and Kev. One of the songs we wrote a while back was a song called Big Boy Now. And I thought, maybe we could do this together. Maybe it'd work as a duet. And we could sing a verse each and sing the choruses and just have a bit of kind of matey kind of camaraderie. And so, we did the track together and it worked out really great. Kev came in, I think he did about 3 vocal takes and we kept what he did and he did a great job. And it was great to have him involved. Last but not least, there was the fantastic Kim Warner. We just left him to his own devices, sent him the files and said, whatever you think might work on these tracks. I think Glenn might have given him a little direction regarding what he'd like and what kind of tone he wanted for these particular songs. But other than that, I think Kim was left to his own devices and sent us back the tapes with this incredible stuff on it, man. I mean, you only have to listen to it to hear what a brilliant musician he is and what an amazing contribution he made to my album. Thanks, Kim, for doing that. We really appreciate it. There's things I said on this album that I wasn't willing to say on other things I've been involved in lyrically. I really think The Great Divide is probably the song where I have said something that I haven't said before. I felt like I really wanted to make that as a statement. There's lots of things I say on this album that are things I wanted to make as a statement. There's a really emotional song called Crossing Over that I wrote with a guy who I've never written with before and never written with since. I wrote that one song with him. It's an incredibly personal song about his life and not mine. And I really wanted to do the song justice because it's such a special song, particularly to him. But it's also become a very special song to me. And Glenn managed to pull a performance and a production out of the ether somehow. He pulled it out of the air and pulled stuff out of me that I didn't even know I had in me. And it's an incredibly emotional performance to me, and it's proved to be that to other people. And so ultimately the album is really, it's a combination of Glenn's approach and my songs and my singing. And I think really Glenn made a massive, massive contribution to this, and there's a big part of this record is Glenn. I'm really happy with the end result. It's the best thing I've ever done. I think it really represents me better than anything I've ever done before. And yeah, and I think we probably, I was going to say we got what we intended when we started out, but I think I actually went further than that. I think we ended up with something that surprised both of us, which I'm really, really happy with. This is the best I can do at this point in time in my life, and yeah, and I hope people like it, I hope people get something from it,